Well, we are taking a very strong, a very powerful focus, if you will, on mental health today. And according to the World Report of 2021, so it's just a couple of years ago, South Africa ranks among the countries with the most mental health challenges. And that's based on responses from 223,000 individuals. So it's quite a nice little sample size there across 34 countries. That's a little bit scary. The report then underscores the importance of mental health awareness and empowering people, leading us to today's conversation.
Yeah, now joining us for a panel discussion and an expert panel at that on this vital topic, we have esteemed guests. We're starting with Dr. Steve Harris. We've got motivational speaker Blythe Brigg. We've got specialist wellness counselor, and of course, Devin is also in the building. Devin Wayne Saunders, the digital content creator. Now, everybody here has some sort of experience or has been affected in some way by mental health, and I think we all have. I love the sort of varied degree in terms of this panel. It's such great perspective. Doc, maybe I can push it straight to you just to start off with the context of mental health in South Africa right now. Where do you see the state of mental health being? I mean, it's a crazy statistic that we're looking at right now. What are the facts actually saying?
Well, excuse me, I'm certainly aware that it's shocking. We have a problem. But I guess we have an opportunity at the same time, to do something good. The notion that there's only 3 psychiatrists for children in South Africa, three provinces that have child psychiatrists, not children psychiatrists. I would hate that. But
children are pretty wise. They're pretty wise.
Yeah, so that already speaks to the fact that there's a massive opportunity to do better. We've got a massive problem, and anxiety, depression, psychosis. If we're talking mental illness, but at the moment we're talking mental health. And it's important to differentiate. At what point are we not just got a mental health problem, we've got a mental illness problem. And then it's a different league. The 3 people here shouldn't be here for that conversation.
For sure, yeah. No, for sure. And I get that, because the one speaks to the structures that would need to be engaged to be able to cope with that. The other, and I'm glad you used the word opportunity, because I'm seeing more young people concerned, aware of their own mental health, their own struggles, their situation. The level of emotional awareness and intelligence is just climbing. And I think that's just life. Life is tough out there, and kids are finding a way to get through that, but they are taking strain. It's a sliding scale, Blythe. When we talk about being sad versus being depressed, being anxious because of what we're going through versus an anxiety disorder, moving into that space, how do we kind of know where we slot in on that sliding scale?
Yeah, so addressing this question requires an understanding of the spectrum of human emotions versus mental health conditions. So when you look at stress and sadness, these are often temporary. However, and they're also things that everyone faces throughout your life. Different periods of your time, you're going to feel sad, you're going to feel stressed. Whereas when you get depression and anxiety, these are feelings of hopelessness, sadness, and fear that prolong throughout your life. They continue, and they make a massive impact on your day-to-day.
They almost feed themselves in nature.
They do, and feeding to this beast of anxiety, I think, is the space that we play in. I mean, Dev, you're someone that specializes in this place, always on the front end, always having to show up, having to step up, not always being allowed to show the vulnerable side. And I think maybe from a culture that being brought up as a man, often possibly going through that thing of like, just harden up, just toughen up and push on. You, however, allowed gents to maybe resonate with you in a different way, and you were quite honest with the anxiety that you were dealing with, and you seeked help, right? Was that easy for you?
No, not at all. It was obviously, being brought up in a home where it was like, hey, just get through it. Have a mid-limb and a stony, you'll get through it, sleep through it type of thing. And I was one of those people. I was like, you know what? No, it's just in your head. You can control it. You can literally just think about something else, until I had to go through that experience. And it was mind-blowing to understand that, hey, you know what? I have no control over my thoughts. I can't just make things better here. There's a man in my head, it's talking and saying something, and I got no control. And going through this journey, I've come across so many men dealing, and a lot of people, I think it's just a stigma attached, that it's kind of like, don't talk about it, deal with it on your own. And I always think, and my psychologist said to me, hey, Dave, you know what? The affluent, they brag about having a psychologist.
Yeah.
But you know, we kind of like frowned upon, hey, you're seeing a psychologist? There's something wrong with you, you know? And that's changed my perspective. And I was like, you know what? Being a content creator online obviously required me to be out there, be in a good mood, be in a good vibe. And it was hard dealing with anxiety and depression until I saw my psychologist, and that kind of like changed, you know. I mean, I was laying in bed every day, trying to do content, but also dealing, and I was like, nah, I can't do this, man. I can't.
Did you have to break to make that decision? And we've spoken, I'll probably say this with each one of you individually over the time that we've been able to get to know each other, but often the most difficult thing is getting out of bed because you are alone with your thoughts. And it's just you and that beast, that guy in your head that's speaking that negative narrative. What led you to seek help? What allowed you to make that shift? Was it a moment? Was it a collective build-up? Can you take us back to that moment?
I can go, man. I've had all the symptoms. I had the chest pains. I had the heart palpitations. I had the body tremors. I had the shakes. I had the dizziness. I had high blood at the time because of my anxiety, right? And I thought, how do people live? I mean, I've been dealing with it for like 2 months at that time. And I was like, how do there's people that's been living with it
their whole life.
Their whole life. And I'm like, how are you doing this? And I did different therapies at home, you know, touch the tap, touch cold, touch warm, do all this. I've listened to calm music, gospel music. It's all managing my anxiety. And I thought, Dave, I need to, how do I eradicate anxiety out of my life? And my fiance said, hey, Dev, you need to see a psychologist. And I was like, I was always against a psychologist. And going into seeing Rafik, my psychologist, I was like, wow, okay, this is a new world. There's hope. And my first question to him was, hey, can I eradicate anxiety? And he confidently looked in my eye and he said, yes, you can. And that was the turning point for me in my life.
And that's the thing, it's not someone to help you to the end result of sorting out your problems. That's not what asking for help is, I think, in this context. It's finding someone who can empower you to do it for yourself. But you need to speak to a professional.
100%, man. Now, this conversation isn't stopping here, Mzansi. We've got a lot to discuss. We're going to dive into this in just a bit, but maybe this conversation could be your turning point to maybe seek help, to maybe empower yourself and take back everything that you might have lost along the way. I'm so grateful for this conversation. We're going to carry on in just a bit, Mzansi, so don't go anywhere. This and a whole lot more to look forward to right now on your Feel Good Breakfast Show. Let me tell you, if you want to do something important today, grab a pen and a paper, start taking some down notes, and yeah, this is going to be some real empowering stuff. We'll see you after this.
You are not alone. Your mental health matters deeply, and help is available right now to you or for someone that you know who is in crisis. Call 0800 456 789 right now to reach a mental health professional, or visit sadag.org to get that support.
Now, in times of crisis, the Suicide Crisis Helpline is there for you at 0800 567 567. Don't hesitate. You are not alone. Help is here for you.
It's my Feel Good Breakfast Show.
We are continuing our dive into the complexities of mental health. Welcome back to our safe space. We are focusing on, I think, in part, well, certainly from my perspective, the lasting impacts of the COVID pandemic. We all had to go through this gateway, and it took a massive, massive toll, but it's also given us opportunities to focus on mental health in a completely new way. And to that end, we've invited in Dr. Steve Harris, Blythe Brigg, and Devin Wayne Saunders. They're back with us, an incredible panel offering, as you pointed out, a beautiful cross-section of perspectives. So, Doc, I'm going to start with you, because you're kind of like a living encyclopedia in this space. And I say living because you update yourself daily based on your human experience of what we are all going through right now, which is very different to what we were going through 3 years ago, 5 years ago, pre-COVID. Resilience has become the South African hashtag. We are resilient. What does that mean? How do we build resilience as maybe that armor or the weapon that we use when we are trying to look after our mental health? Because we all ultimately want to be strong.
Two leading thoughts is the one is during COVID, the awful environment of not being able to exercise.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And many of us saying, wow, what a pleasure. but that was the worst thing.
Yeah.
And people
Movement.
don't fake depression; they fake being okay, and that's the problem. So
Please say that again.
they don't fake depression; they fake being okay.
Wow.
So what you were saying there, and I fully, but ultimately that complex problem of anxiety, depression, and the total mental illness, there's one major remedy: exercise.
Move, 100%.
Do stuff. It's hard to think of your problems when you're gasping for breath running. And
He wouldn't know what that feels like. So when most of us run for long distances, we run out of breath and we get tired. It's a thing. It's a human thing.
climbing the mountain, not when it's fire. And don't climb now.
100%.
Too
More
hard.
stressed yourself.
That's like green energy,
But it's ultimately the easiest ameliorating thing we can do. Exercise. And all the books, all the sages will tell you that. If you exercise regularly, you can dampen the effect of anxiety. You can't get rid of it. Maybe you can eradicate it. I haven't experienced that.
You want to learn to live with them and handle them, deal with them, assimilate so that you can control it. You can be the master.
So that's my input on that. It's kind of too simplistic for a complex problem.
It's really not, and I'll open up here because when I had to come through it's a like open topic here on the show. I lost my mind completely being separated from my family for about 4 months. This turning point for me was being asked by a really big brand to host a mental wellness campaign with a group of runners on Sea Point Promenade. And I remember rocking up there thinking, what am I doing? Now, I've got to talk to these people about my own absolutely broken mental state. And with that run, just making it a few meters further than I'd done for the last year was enough for my brain to register a success, a positive movement. There was something about the movement that is so powerful. I get that.
And I love that conversation because movement is key. I think use it or lose it, keep moving forward. It allows us to obviously deal and in a very constructive way, because I think that's what our bodies are designed for. But at the same time, it's not just the movement. And I think maybe Blythe and Dev, I can put this one to you. I think for me, it also involves a little bit of conversation, right? And maybe not to the point of seeking help yet, because a lot of us aren't sure where we're at in that moment. So how do we identify the issue within us if we are struggling with something, and how do we get that out? How do we express that? How do we find maybe someone to chat to, safer spaces to converse with? Because I think, yes, movement is absolutely vital. It is so key. But if we could converse at the same time, that would be even more beautiful, right?
Yeah. I think it starts with you, obviously. It starts with each individual. When it comes to recognizing that you have an issue, you have to understand your norm first. So tracking your mood, tracking journaling, and also trusting your people around you to point out if, hey, you're acting a little bit different, and to take that at heart and go, okay, well, now I can look back at my records and say, when did this shift happen? Doing things like that allows you to recognize when there is a difference in your day-to-day, and then you can question where it comes from. There's also starting the conversation yourself, creating that non-judgmental, safe space for your friends and family breeds that type of environment that you can also go off into.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I totally agree with you. It's just having a conversation with yourself. You know what the normal Devon, and the Devon that's laying in bed or wanting to sleep to like just get rid of this feeling and as you were saying earlier, we got health, we got sport and exercise to manage our anxiety.
It's a tool, yeah.
We got medication to manage. And for my journey, I came across a therapy that kind of like eradicated my deep anxiety, where I know my triggers now. I know that, hey, Dev, if you're gonna do this, it's kind of like it's gonna play in your mind, your type of thing. And now I don't go in that deep sleep. I don't go in my bed. I don't suffer. I'm a survivor. I like to say that, a survivor of anxiety because of the therapy BWRT. That's changed my perspective now, so I know what my triggers are. I don't have to manage my anxiety anymore. I think that's the way we need to go in terms of neuroscience. Well, that's where we are currently with neuroscience. It's no more about, hey, take this, do this, it's going to make you feel better. I think there's a big message going around in the world of psychology that you can minimize that anxiety, you can eradicate it.
And maybe I can put this to all three of you, because as we're talking here, it kind of feels like the goalposts moved a little bit with COVID, where you could have had all your childhood trauma packed nicely in a trunk, some of us, maybe a little suitcase. Then COVID gave us something else, and now we've got the real-time pressure of what's going on. So I'm going to put this, and anyone can answer here. Maybe I'll start with you, Devin, because you get a lot of guys talking to you. What's breaking people? What is the thing? Is it our childhood stuff that we've got to go back and address? In your case, maybe, and I'm asking you to be very open here. Or is it what we've all been going through?
Man, I've talked about this often. It's the childhood traumas. I'm actually currently dealing with some of my childhood traumas that I experienced as a young man. Also, our financial climate that we're in as parents, as fathers.
Big time, yeah.
The crime that we have. I mean, hijacking. You know, these are triggers, simple triggers that triggers our brain. Like, for example, you get hijacked, gun against your head, you hear a gun, cocking sound. You're like, hey. There's a trigger. You go home, you open a door, you hear a clicking sound. You're like, hey, it's a gun. It takes me back to the negative experience. That triggers my anxiety.
Completely, dude.
And boom, you know, it's kind of like it just adds on until you get to that breaking point and you're like, hey, you got anxiety, you're going through something now, and you need to eradicate it, or you need to see someone for help.
Talk to someone. The depression and anxiety group is amazing. They don't know you. They don't care who you are. There is no judgment. Their only mandate, their purpose is to help people going through this. And in varying stages, if you're raw and it's hectic and you're at that point, you need to speak to someone. And we'll keep the SADC details up on our website. I think they're up on screen right now. I have used them. They are phenomenal. Absolutely amazing. Take a step beyond that. Speak to someone within your circle, or speak to a psychologist. Make that appointment and empower yourself, like Devin has very clearly empowered himself, without changing the makeup of the man that is standing before us. If anything, he is 10 times stronger. So please, if you've got any comments or questions that you'd like to add to this conversation, please join us on our social media platforms. We'd love to hear from you. You are not alone. Your mental health matters deeply, and help is available right now to you or for someone that you know who is in crisis. Call 0800 456 789 right now to reach a mental health professional, or visit sadag.org to get that support.
Now, in times of crisis, the Suicide Crisis Helpline is there for you at 0800 567 567. Don't hesitate. You are not alone. Help is here for you.
Oh,